Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Mike.
Oh, Phil, good to be with you and everybody out there in the listening audience. Happy Friday, happy weekend. Excited for another podcast, a little random waypoints, and we promise you we're going to get a little random today, I think.
Oh, we definitely going to get random. Can I get something off my chest right away, Mike?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so last weekend, I decided that I wanted to do some work on my computer, but I didn't want to be in my office. So I went to Starbucks. Plus, I wanted to try this new battery I got for the laptop and see if it actually worked.
Yep.
And I was sitting next to some young guys. And when I say young guys, I don't know, the mid-30s, maybe younger, younger. They in their 30s.
Millennials.
Mm-hmm. Both of them married. And they were using the word amazing and literally throughout their conversation. And there was never a thing that they mentioned that was close to amazing. And they never mentioned anything that was actually literal. Mm-hmm. Now, bear with me, Mike. I'm not no cornball. I understand what slang is, and I understand the basics of what's effective slang. Contrasting words is usually the most common. Like people say bad and they mean good.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's bad.
I get that. Right? But what's happening now with the language of these young people is you're never clear. Like, let's take the word literally. They will use the word literally, and then later on, they'll use the word literally, and it don't mean literally.
Right.
And you have to keep up with when they're using it for real and when they're not.
Can I just say, literally gets so overused, that word.
Yes.
Holy hell.
But and this is what I'm getting to. It gets overused so much for so many things that people take the word literally as meaning it's true. That's what people think of the word now. So people get away with pushing false facts and use the word literally, and nobody questions it anymore. And it's a whole bunch of other words like that. Like the other one, like hater is a real word. There really are haters out there. I work every day to get more and more haters.
We're doing a good job here.
As the wise Cat Williams once said, if you ain't got no haters, you need to be working on getting you some. That means you ain't got nothing going on.
That's right. You got to be relevant.
But now...
Literally, Phil. Literally.
But literally, they use the word hater so much and just so frivolously. It's just basically an excuse for, if I mention or critique something accurately about you, I'm a hater.
Yep.
And I could go on and on of different words that are just pissing me off, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I thought it would be cool to just ask you, are there any similar overused, wrongly used slang words where you're at? Because you're living in Mexico now. You're going to become a citizen. You're learning the language. So I thought that would be great to ask you.
So it's interesting that you asked that, because I'll give you a little history about Spanish, and particularly here in Mexico. So, as you know, Castilian, like Spanish from Spain, is very, very different than Latin American or Mexican or Puerto Rican or Cuban or anything else. So Mexico, since this is where I am, in particular, has a number of different dialects depending on where you are. And that also correlates to slang. And it's interesting that you brought this up from the English perspective, because I'm located in southern Baja, and Baja was the last state that was admitted to the United States of Mexico. And so it's kind of an outpost. And it is the most, I'll call it the most slang used Spanish of anywhere in Mexico. So I am actually at the in ground zero of slang. In fact, I go to school at a school in town here in Todos Santos, and we've been very adamant about taking classes in learning like to speak like a local, right? I mean, I don't want to speak like came from Madrid. I want to speak like everybody else does, right? So you can learn a lot of words that may be relevant, and not to say that people won't understand what you're saying, but they wouldn't use them, right? So slang around here. So I made it. You actually. So Phil sent me this little dialogue about words. So I came up with one, and of course, being myself, and by the way, being slang and where I'm located, a lot of them are bordering. Some of these words that are very used here a lot are bordering on. Similarly to back in America, are bordering on, depending on how you use them, could be swears, could be meaning the opposite of what it means. So I'm going to go right along with you. So it's interesting you brought up something. What was the word you use? Awesome, right? They use awesome all the time. Well, down here, chingon. I hear that word all the time. Chingon. Because I drive around in my old 1965 Land Rover and I hear people yelling from the street going, chingon, chingon. And that translates basically as awesome or badass or like cool, right? Now, having said that, chingon comes from the verb chingar, which basically is the equivalent to English fuck. So very similar to like in America where, fuck is like an adjective, a noun, a verb. Depends on how you use it, right? It could be good, could be bad, could be all sorts of stuff. So, like chingao. People go chingao, that's damn it. That basically the English equivalent would be like, damn it, chingao. I won't repeat what this says, but like chinga tu madre, you can kind of figure out what that means. Yes, motherfucker, right? Or vete a la chingada. See, so all this comes from the same verb is go fuck yourself. Vete is, go. We say that to the dogs around here all the time. Vete, vete. So vete a la chingada is go fuck yourself. So, anyways, there's an example of a word that on one side means awesome if you're talking about somebody's cool old truck, but it directly comes from a swear word. And I got another one we use a lot, and it's overused in America too. No mames. So you probably even hear that in America sometimes. No mames way is basically no way, dude. No way, or no fucking way, really, because that also borderlines depending on where you are. So in Baja, no mames is pretty common. You can actually kind of say that to a stranger. Like you're like, oh, whoa, no way. If you were on mainland Mexico, like in Mexico City, it's more of a swear. Like you wouldn't say that to like really a stranger or like maybe an older adult or something. Here, you get away with it. So those are two words. I got more. You want more words?
At least give me two more. I'm dying here.
Well, pendejo. Pendejo, that's basically asshole or idiot. That's what that means, pendejo.
Well, everybody knows that one.
Exactly. So, but my point is, you hear these words here a lot, and what's up. So here you can say, I think people back in America know que pasa, right? People hear que pasa, what's up? They don't really use that here. So in Baja, that's actually a little bit too formal. Here they usually use que onda or que pedo. And pedo actually comes from, it means fart. So it's like, it translates to what's up, but it's kind of more like, what are you farting around or what are you up to? You know what I mean? So we usually use
like shooting the shit.
Shooting the shit. Yeah, exactly. So we usually just say que onda. Que onda, what's up? What's up, man?
Okay.
Que onda way. So anyway, here's your Spanish lesson for today.
Well,
Mexican Spanish lesson.
Thank you, Mike. This particular episode is going to be deeply buried in the algorithm.
That's right. Well, they'll be listening to it in the Hispanic world all over. We're going to go big on hey, YouTube now. I know most people listen to this on Spotify or Apple or whatever, but we also post it up to YouTube for the 4 to 12 people that like to watch us. And YouTube now has automatic translation on everything. In fact, I pulled a video up. So my Starlink is out of Mexico City, right? And I pulled a video up of my own video, and I didn't know this, Phil. They voice it over. So I pull up a video of myself, and here I am standing on the screen speaking in Spanish with somebody else's voice overdubbed on me. I didn't know they were even doing that. I didn't do that. That's automatic now.
So how do I hear that version of you?
I don't know. I think you have to. I don't know. I don't know if there's a setting you can say that you're like located in Spain or Mexico or something. It knows by my IP address that I'm in Mexico, so it assumes that I want to watch YouTube in Spanish. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I would like to talk to somebody from YouTube. I have many questions.
Yeah,
like like when I'm going to buy a product, I usually like to research it intensely through YouTube videos.
Sure.
And let's say it's a new product, and so people are in the process of making the video. So there's like videos coming out every day.
Yep.
And I'll go in and I'll go upload. You have it to give you the latest uploads. You set the search for it to give you the latest uploads. When I do that, it's always from other places around the world, and very few of them are from America.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we would be billionaires right now if we could figure out the YouTube algorithm. Let me tell you.
Oh. So, Mark, I just want to give a few other words because
give us some English words. List them.
Triggered.
Oh God.
Do you know how many times?
Phil, you just triggered me by saying that word.
But I don't even.
Triggered.
It doesn't.
Dude, that shouldn't even be. Can I just say that's a stupid word?
It is. It is. Well, it's a stupid word because of what they've made it out to be.
Exactly.
If it were the rarely used word that signified that something really big is happening, that's caused you an emotional
Correct.
change,
correct,
it would be great. But most often when I hear it is when two people are having a discussion and the person is losing, and they'll say something that don't make no sense and then just say, I know you're triggered now.
Right.
To like deflect from the conversations.
Yeah.
So I hear it. And then another one is gaslighting.
Oh God. That's gaslighting. Yep. I hear that constantly. And to be honest with you, at this point, I'm not even sure I know what gaslighting means anymore, because it's used incorrectly like 98% of the time.
It's supposed to be a psychological manipulation to make someone question their reality.
Right.
How often does that happen?
Never. Yeah, never.
And then I saved the best for last.
Oh, I know what it's going to be. Can I take a guess?
Yep.
Let's see. It's going to be.
I know what you're going to say.
You know I'm going to say woke.
And you're wrong. Yep. I was right.
Okay.
But you're close.
Okay.
It's toxic.
Toxic.
If I don't like it, it's toxic.
Right.
And it started out as a woman thing, calling men stuff toxic.
Yep.
But now I hear men saying toxic.
Mm-hmm.
I actually can't. I used to could decipher a man's writing from a woman's writing, but you can no longer do that because men, their language has become very effeminate. Like I said, I was sitting in the Starbucks and they were just, that's amazing and this is amazing. And I was like, shut up, bitch.
I mean, in fairness, you were in Starbucks.
That's true. And I'm in one of those amazing places.
Right. That's right.
All right, Mike. I got that off my chest.
Okay, good.
I have another question though. Where's that thing? I'm putting it up on the screen right now.
Yep.
You sent me some charts, and
I did.
I know how to read a chart.
No good.
Well, I'm gonna just shut up. So hopefully more people watch this week
Right.
and get to see the chart.
Mm-hmm. Which chart are we going to talk about?
You tell me. You sent me two, so tell me.
Well, okay, I'll tell you. And for those of you that are listening and don't see it in front of you, I sent him a chart that is titled "Tariff Revenue Has Soared After Trump's Substantially Higher Levies and Tariffs." And what it doesn't say on this chart is that I think I looked at it separately. Month over month, or I should say year over year, from this month last year, I think the revenue that the United States is generating on inbound goods is up like 330% or something like that. Now, the most interesting thing that I saw, and by the way, in July, so what you're not seeing if you're not looking at this, July 2025, we, meaning the U.S. government, brought in just shy of $30 billion in tariff revenue. The prior month looks like it was just about the same. April, when it started, it was like at 18 billion. So the long and short of it is they're bringing in a boatload of money. Now, what it does not show on this chart, and I did not send Phil another chart that I saw, that to date, basically through the month of July, because obviously the negative impact of tariffs, I think we all know what a tariff is, and maybe for our audience that's wondering where we're going with this, I mean, a tariff basically is going to be passed down at the end of the day, but to the consumer, right? You're going to pay for it by the price of the good going up. However, according to what I just read, 78% of the tariffs to date, in other words, through July, have been eaten up or paid for by corporations, as opposed to the individual end user. So basically, what's happened is that the cost to bring in the widget went up by, say, 20% to pay for the tariff. The widget still costs the same to you or you or I. So the company paid for that. Now, over time, most economists are going to tell you that eventually companies are going to attempt their best to try to figure out how to pass it on to us, but that hasn't occurred yet, by and large. So so a couple things I was interested in, because I heard Trump rambling on as he did. I think he was actually on the roof of the White House or something, wandering around, and he said something about that he was considering taking a lot of that tariff money, which, by the way, I think is like, I forget what it was. It's north of $500 billion. It's like over $500 billion or something like that. And he was thinking about giving checks to sending them back to taxpayers.
So let's update the viewers. So we've hit 30 billion in monthly tariff revenue, and the top 1% just crossed 55 trillion in wealth. And one chart shows the government cashing in, and the other shows the people getting left behind.
Oh, I didn't talk about the second chart I sent you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, let me talk about that because that's interesting too. So I sent him a chart calling, because you've heard us talk about this on the podcast a lot. The rich are getting richer, right? So this was a very nicely laid out chart that I found that goes from 1980 basically to today. And in 1980, you can see the lines. So there's 4 lines, right? There's the top 0.01%, the top 0.1%, the top 1%, and the bottom 50%, right? Mm-hmm. So the bottom 50% line has, by and large, stayed about the same, right? Status quo. Whereas the top 0.01% and the top 1% have gone up by I don't know what. Yeah, like Phil just said, $55 trillion or something like that. And the disparity is incredible, right? From 1980 to now. So you're looking at what are we looking at? 45, 50 years?
Yes.
What I found interesting about this, the biggest bumps in the wealthy. So if you look at the graph, the biggest jumps in wealth occurred 3 times, and they all correlate with bad times. The crash in 2008, the 2000 in real estate for sure, because I was in it. And the biggest one, the biggest increase in wealth occurred to the wealthy occurred during the pandemic, during COVID. It's the biggest jump. So we could talk about it any way you want to talk about it, but I thought that was interesting.
Well, what you just mentioned, that's not a singular thing. People who play the stocks and commodities and things like that, and that are educated on it, that's when you make your money. The money is made. That's when the money, yes. So, and that's historically, that's even beyond Western culture.
Yep. But what is a little disturbing, and I'll preface this by saying I do think it is a big problem in America right now over the last 50 years, where there's been such a great transfer of wealth. And by the way, this chart, I mean, I shouldn't even say this on the podcast, but this, and I did verify it for accuracy, so it is pretty accurate. It was posted, I saw it popped up in my feed. It was posted by Bernie Sanders, who by the way, harps and harps and harps about, the wealthy getting wealthier and whatever. By and large, he's right. And my big problem with it is if you look at through history from the Industrial Revolution, the wealthy have always been considerably wealthier than the poor people in the middle class. There's no question about that. Because even back in 1980, they were accounting for $5 trillion, and and everybody else was accounting for jack shit. But today, we're still accounting for jack shit. Now those wealthy people are accounting for $55 trillion. So 50 times what they were in 1980. Whereas, so what's being eaten up largely is the middle class. And I can tell you from history, when you look at other countries, particularly developing nations, where there's a disparate difference between, your rulers and your wealthy people. Like take any country, Congo or India, or I can go on, where there's not very much of a middle class. It's wealthy and poor. America's definitely moving in that direction. And unfortunately, history will show you that doesn't end well, typically.
I'm in 110% agreement with you, bro. I was waiting for some kind of conflict in our opinions, but
well, yeah, no, that big bump during the COVID thing is interesting because, like you said, bad times create wealth for people that have, particularly have deep pockets. On top of that, I would argue that they made a lot of money on it because, look, this was almost a I don't say fabricated pandemic, but it was financially, it was largely fabricated. And there was a lot of transfer of money going on because the people that had the power, look, they produced pharmaceuticals that were pushed down people's throats. That they were making hand sanitizer like it was water. They were making masks. Companies sprung up overnight. Shit, we're recording this right now on Zoom.
Right.
The pandemic created Zoom. So think about it. The guys that own Zoom and created Zoom are part of this, the rich getting richer, right? I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah, they were nothing before this. They were
nothing.
They were just like some little cool app that some people use.
Exactly. Now it's a standard. So you can see what occurred then. And not to say that the pandemic was fabricated, but it was certainly taken advantage of. And then a huge amount of wealth was transferred from the federal government, quite frankly, to businesses and corporations in the form of PPP money and government subsidies and whatnot, which in many cases, I don't want to say they were unnecessary, but in many cases they were unnecessary, quite frankly. And by the way, a lot of the hardship that we're having right now in the States with inflation and cost of goods and whatnot is a direct problem of just printing money. We printed a shitload of money for the pandemic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I agree and don't agree with you that we should have been dishing out money the way we should. I agree that if we're going to tell everybody to stay home and require them to stay home, then they needed to be subsidized by the government telling them to do it.
Yeah, right.
But we shouldn't have had to stay home.
Well, I mean, that's the reality. Bert was saying, I was talking to my buddy Bert here the other day, and, he was in Southern California, San Diego during this. And, he'd go, he's a pretty athletic guy. He'd run on the beach every day and whatever. And then for the first month, they closed the beach, right? They weren't allowed outside. I mean, some of this stuff was completely nonsensical, right? Yeah. And then of course you got to pay people to do shit, because what are you going to do? We're all locked in our basement. Nonsense.
See, people still have the nerve to call this a conspiracy theory, even though the facts are steadily backing me. And it was a flu. I don't even like to call it the COVID. I like to call it the sea flu.
Yeah.
The mortality wasn't much different. Nothing was pretty much different when you actually looked at the numbers from any other flu. It was a good. It was a strong flu. It had high numbers.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, hindsight is 2020, right? And we can look at it now, 5 years on, and you can look back and you can say, yeah, this is what occurred. The people that had pre-existing conditions or were highly susceptible to stuff were going to be more susceptible, as they are with anything, as they are with pneumonia or the flu or anything else, quite frankly. So
it was a
no
huge
different.
Money grab for a lot of people.
Big money grab.
And
I'm going to go a step further, Phil, and piss some other people off. I think this was an example of the U.S. And we're not usually like this, because look, the U.S. is. Well, listen, hold on. I got a point here. Just listen. The U.S. is usually like half on board with the United Nations, is half on board with NATO, is half on board with international kinds of things. And I think this time the U.S. kind of bought it hook, line, and sinker in the beginning, at least, with the United Nations and with the WHO, World Health Organization, and stuff. And we actually latched on to the world's panic. And then in some cases, we led the world's panic, which is mind-staggering, because it's not something that we normally would do. And we did. And I think we got just so wrapped up in this thing that, and now you look back and to be honest with you, Phil, and maybe some of my liberal friends are maybe going to disagree with this, and maybe they won't by now. I don't know. Because somehow it divided along liberal and conservative lines, which is mind-boggling, because I don't even understand the relationship to that. But in any case, the liberals took the point of view that it was all necessary. I mean, when you look back on this stuff, some of the stuff that we did is, if you tried to explain it to your today self, you'd shake your head and go, "What? What?" We set up like plexiglass little things in restaurants, and I think we've all watched those terror movies where the plague or the whatever virus or whatever goes. So to think that we were going to set up like little plexi partitions that only went up, maybe a foot over the booth, or we're going to put on some mask that wasn't approved by anything. It was more like a scarf that came from Louis Vuitton, like that was going to somehow stop germs. I mean, some of the stuff that we came up with was astronomical. One way aisles in the grocery store.
So it sounds,
give me a fucking break.
It sounds like, from what you're saying, your liberal friends are basically saying, well, in hindsight, looking back, maybe it wasn't as bad as you say, but the proactiveness was absolutely a smart thing to do, right?
Well, I'd blame my liberal friends, those same friends I would blame for making the rich richer, because that's what they did.
Well, where I was going to go with that is I dispel that excuse, because it's just, I'll give you another. You remember when we was talking about Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and a lot of things were done off of that misinformation.
Yeah, which is another boondoggle on the right.
But some people believed it and some people didn't right off the bat.
Yes,
you don't
correct.
And those who they said, well, I went with the information or whatever. Okay, you don't get credit for being smart. You were wrong.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't fall for the Saddam Hussein. None of these things that they talk about, I fell for. I saw them clearly.
That's a good example because, to be fair, that was a conservative Republican side that was their boondoggle, and to some extent, the liberal and the Democrat side was the pandemic.
That's why I used it. I thought that made the point more. Is that that's the game? It's just the game. So, Mike, are we witnessing smart economic policy or just another chapter in America's great wealth transfer?
I mean, currently?
Yeah, I'm talking about. So we're talking about the tariffs, right?
Okay.
I'm just asking. I'm like, so which side are you on? Is this a good deal, or is this just a wealth transfer, or is it a mix of the two?
I don't. So I'm not a big fan of this tariff thing. I'm particularly not a big fan. I'm not a big. No, I never was, and I'm not a big fan of Trump's way he implements things. Like he's just, and I said this before, he's like bombastic, he's threatening, he's haphazard, it's in and out. You know, I put it on you today, tomorrow we're going to take it off. None of this, I'm not for any of that.
He reminds me of every spoiled 16-year-old rich kid I've ever met.
Stomping their feet. They're stomping their feet. However, having said that, there are examples of the policy that are a couple things that are maybe one working inadvertently. There are parts of it that appear to be benefiting us successfully, maybe even in spite of it, of his policy. But as an example, we were able to largely get Europe to acquiesce and get Europe to pitch in with Ukraine and with NATO and with the tariffs and various other things where it's largely worked. So I think I can give credit where credit's due on that. Second, a couple days ago, he put in a significant tariff on India. And that was really not so much because of economics. That's more because India is basically breaking the embargo on Russian oil. Well, good. I'm fully in support of that. Fuck India. You know, like if we're trying to get something done, and you know, you guys are not exempt from this. Everybody else is like, you know, going through bullshit and trying to put Russia under the vice. Well, India, you know, come on board. So whack them with a 50% tariff and penalize them. Good. I'm okay with that too.
I'm with that too.
Yep. But that, you know, but this whole thing with back and forth with you know, fentanyl and Mexico and Canada, no, that to me is insanity. I mean, if anything, if we're gonna truly try to bring down or loosen the control of China and India and Vietnam and some of these countries that are taking advantage of, particularly China, but we need trade partners, right? So they have to be replaced with somebody. And the obvious, legitimate choice would be our North American trading partners, Canada, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, you know, countries in Central America. This makes sense. They're closer. The shipping is less. You've got a pretty good workforce. And at a fairly inexpensive rate. So
I don't have a problem paying more as long as there's no other option.
Correct. That's right.
And if I know that me paying that extra is going to pay for a guy to work one job and be able to pay all his bills, I'm willing to pay the extra. But I don't want the Chinese product option there Because then I feel like an idiot paying.
You're an idiot. It's like what Tim Cook said. Look, if I sold 2 iPhones and we sold an iPhone that was assembled in China and we sold a American edition, a red, white, and blue iPhone that came across and it was like, all 100% made in America, blah, 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 but it costs $1,000 more. Very few assholes are going to buy the iPhone that costs $1,000 more because it was assembled in, Texas. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen.
You brought up Tim Cook. Yesterday, he just basically signed $1 trillion deal to one, bring back the manufacturing here and to mine for the resources here. So that was the bigger deal to me.
Well, it is, and particularly, but he's honest, and Trump is actually sounds like Trump is actually understanding what Tim Cook is saying now. Is that look, we can bring back $1 trillion worth of stuff into the United States. It basically. By the way, that was part of. I got to give Trump some credit on this too, because I think that was also successful. Because look, he put so much pressure on Apple about China, and then Apple started to divert more stuff to India, and then we're putting pressure on India. So well, let's come back to America. So that actually seems to be working.
And that's
to some
how it
extent.
should be. You should.
As it should be.
Everywhere you go, you feel uncomfortable. Yep. I need to bring my ass home.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Tim Cook was honest. Look, we're going to make chips. We're going to develop lithium. We're going to make glass. Corning is going to make it in Kentucky or whatever. Those are all positives. But he was also honest, and he told Trump, "Look, this shit's going to still be assembled in China because at this point, we're not at that level that we don't have the workers, we don't have the organization, we don't have the infrastructure. We're not there yet. Will we be there eventually? Maybe, but not right now." So we don't have the ability to do it 100% in the States yet, but we're moving in the right direction.
Well, the both of us I know are going to keep up with this, and we'll keep everybody updated on how this ends up. I hope it ends up something positive for all. So, Mike, you know that the Coast Guard says that the Titan sub deaths were instantaneous, but also preventable. So I just want to be honest about it. This wasn't about exploration. It was about ego. It was about elites funding high-risk stunts under the guise of adventure. And Titan's just one example, from space tourism to luxury overlanding. There's a pattern here, and it smells more like vanity projects than noble quests. So, Mike, whether it's diving to the Titanic in a glorified science fair project, blasting into orbit for a photo op, or driving a 6-figure rig through jungles for Instagram, do you think extreme tourism is truly about adventure, or is it ego theater for the rich masked as exploration and quietly feeding corporate interests and personal brands and legacy building?
All right, well, let me unpack that. First off, the Titanic thing, Stockton Rush was an egomaniac who, and I don't really want to talk bad about the dead, but to be honest with you, he killed himself and everybody else on board. And
I'll always talk bad about a murderer. He's a murderer. That's manslaughter.
And he knew it was going to happen. That thing, every time it went into the water, got weaker, right? So eventually it's gonna implode, and it did. And so that was okay. So that is a good example of, and sadly, there were innocent people on board for sure. All of whom, by the way, were extremely wealthy. So to your point, that is an example of super wealthy. Now, I would say in that case, though the people that were on board were not doing it for the Instagram, they weren't doing it for that so much. They were more doing it because they have the assets, the means, and it is an over the top adventure. Shit, look, if you could take me to the Titanic, I'd go for sure. Not in that thing, I wouldn't. But like, if I could go in something that was reasonably safe, I think that would be super cool to go see. For sure. I've always been a Titanic buff. Now, on the other side of this, we see things being built We see things on. I'm not going to name names because there's some people I watch on YouTube as an example that are doing some things over the top. So there's a fine line. I mean, there's look, the world. You addressed the rocket ship that went up with the tourists on it with the Instagram thing where it was debatable. I think we came to the conclusion that they didn't even go to space. Yeah, they didn't even go to space. That thing was faked up, But
so, Mike, the point I'm trying to basically make about the whole thing is, in my opinion, these trips let billionaires paint themselves as explorers, not exploiters, and they use it sometimes to shape their public image. You have some that are still like, they're not retired. They're like Robert Branson.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it to show you it's their way of balling.
Yes,
it's after a certain point. I got as many Rolls Royces, Porsche probably sends you cars for free.
Sure.
At this point, you're looking for a way to show off that others can't. And that's why you fly to the moon or go to the Titanic. And I'm talking in general. Because I'm confident there are a huge amount of people who would just love to go see the Titanic.
Yeah, sure.
But the ones who don't have questions, and the tourism guide can convince you to get into that type of submersible without any questioning of it, and you talking your child to go with you down there,
which is insane.
This is all hubris. This is
I agree, because that's not a proven method. I mean, by the way, there were and are alternatives.
The son didn't want to go.
Yeah, I know. It's super sad. It's super sad. Like, and now let's backtrack a little bit. We've talked about this in relationship to the overlanding world, and it's been a beef of mine and yours for a long time that there's, you go to some of these overland shows, and the vast majority of the show is about the glitz, the glam, the things you strap onto your truck that are not unnecessary, often untested, often don't make any sense once you buy them, and you're like, what the hell am I going to do with this piece of garbage that I bought? It's stupid. So there is definitely the hubris and the show factor involved in that. Now, but on the other side of that, Phil, I'm going to use a good example here from some of our friends, and I will mention their names in this. Very recently, this is big overland news, that Clay Croft from Expedition Overland, and those guys got picked up by their Greenland expedition. Actually, it got picked up and is going to be put on the big screen, which is great news. So now you could say, look, I equate this to sort of like, let's think about it this way: Captain Cook or Christopher Columbus, right? These people were explorers, pushing the boundaries of things, heavily funded, right? Money. They had money. Let's just face it. Like the poor people aren't going out and exploring the world like throughout history. Jacques Cousteau. These people were heavily funded. And so I use this a little bit as example. Not all of us, not everybody in overlanding is going to be able to ship a bunch of trucks to Greenland and go across Greenland. And you and I, by the way, I should note this to our listeners, got the opportunity that we've actually seen the movie already. When we were at Overland Ranch last year, they previewed it to us. So I will tell you, if you have an opportunity to go see this, definitely go. It's amazing. This has never been done before. Going south to north in Greenland.
If you are an outdoor person, if you are an overlander, if you're into exploration, it's so many different subject matters you could be involved in or hobbies. This is going to be an interesting movie, and it's visually just beautiful.
Stunning.
It's stark. It's a stark.
Yep. And Clay, by the way, shot it on one My understanding is it was shot basically on one camera and a drone. So it's a unique perspective. It's definitely worth seeing. But my point to the whole thing is, they're definitely, they have their the detractors, or their people critical of them. And we've talked about this on a podcast before, because not everybody can do this, right? That expedition cost a shit ton of money. To ship the trucks to Iceland or to Greenland, to do airdrops for fuel, to do
wow.
Remember, and I thought it was interesting because we had the benefit of listening to them tell us about the trip too. But the whole tracking, what was that they hired? I think it was a German company that came to do sonar or whatever over the ice to figure out where the potential crevasses could be. And that was big money. So my point to the whole thing is, money solely is not the defining factor in whether or not this is a quote a vanity project or an ego thing or whatever. This was I'm using them as an example of true exploration. This is something that hadn't been done, and it was and now the fact that it's hitting the big screen is bringing that vision to those of us that don't have the opportunity to do it. So that makes sense. And by the way, it was in.
He's trying to make. He's a filmmaker.
That's right.
Your goal is always to film
to bring it to us,
new and beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. He's just doing his job.
Whereas on the contrast to that, the Stockton Rush thing, I mean, he wasn't bringing diddly shit to us. He's and this was a non-proven thing. By the way, what's his name? James Cameron had already gone to the Titanic, which by the way is also a filmmaker, brought back to us visuals of the Titanic. We've seen inside. They sent cameras in. So that had already occurred, right? That wasn't a vanity project on Cameron's side of it. So there's the difference. And I hope I explained that well enough. God.
You mentioned Cameron. It would seem as though if somebody were going to go to depths that only few have gone.
Which he did.
But I'm talking about the people who just died in the it just seemed like I would have at least done some kind of cursory research, and through my cursory research, I would have found video of Cameron going down to the Titanic. And when I saw that big yellow tank of a thing that he was in, and then I saw what they was
that
talking about me,
flimsy looking thing. Yeah, and by the way, if I had gotten on that thing, Phil, on the boat, and you were the captain, and you say, "Look at Mike, look at this, look at the controller I got from PlayStation," dude, I would have jumped overboard. There's no way I'm going down with a PS2.
You couldn't have got me in it after you told me what it was made of.
No,
bro. The guy, what's his name? Rushton?
Stockton Rush.
Stockton Rush. I'm sure as far as like engineering and technical stuff and schooling, he blows me out the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a regular old Joe. And I know, I mean, just the average person, it seems, knows that carbon fiber wasn't no good idea.
Not for that.
Have you ever seen a carbon fiber car just have like a 35 mile per hour accident?
Yep. You mentioned that, but Phil, I used to be racing in cycling, and our bikes are made out of carbon fiber. You crashed that bike.
They got an expiration date if nothing's wrong with them.
That's right, and those things snap. And when I mean snap, they snap. Like they just disintegrate. So yeah, I mean, common sense would tell you, if I'm looking at that and I'm comparing it to James Cameron going down to the Marianas Trench or wherever he went with that big yellow thing that looked like, it was, it looked like a bomb, right? It was like this big metal, it was 12 inches thick or something. Yeah.
And Mike, what's crazy is now after the fact, when people have lost their lives, they've been showing a cornucopia of different videos where people have asked him about the safety and different things. And if you heard the response, some of them, he basically is just like, I don't care. Some people like, fuck you. And then some people, he just smart.
There was the best one out there. I forget the guy's name. I think it was for 60 Minutes that they filmed.
Sitting in it.
Well, yeah, and they filmed the whole series. This was done maybe 3 years before they died, and they were going to do it. They were doing a feature, I think, for 60 Minutes about this wonderful new thing and this new technology. And by the way, when he was done filming that series, it never aired. He went back to his bosses at CBS and said, "Hell no, we ain't running this. That thing is a death trap. Like we're not promoting this thing at all."
Well, that's another thing that's coming out after the fact. He's not almost everyone he encountered was like, hell no. Whether it was somebody on the legal side, the engineering side, the media side, everybody's like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
But that's also indicative of, this is a good example of when you got a certain amount of money, or you have access to a certain amount of money, you can pretty much do anything. Law, rule, regulation, common sense, all that goes out the window.
Yep. See, what's interesting about this is that he got through some legal loopholes because it was in international water or whatever. And, because look, he was taking paying customers. So for all practical, common sense would tell you that, if you're going to be a tour operator, you got to have some kind of license, some kind of inspection, like you would if it was a bus company or a train or shit, even an amusement park to go on the Ferris wheel. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's.
Well, from my understanding,
no mame's way.
From my understanding, still to this day, I could make a carbon fiber submersible and do the same exact thing. From my understanding, there's still like no regulations or laws or anything.
Probably not. Probably not. I don't think you're going to convince anybody to go with you, though.
Well, bro, that's kind of like my point. I believe that the right person with the right pitch can convince ego-driven, hubris-having rich folks into doing almost anything.
Maybe. Yeah.
At a certain, you got to understand, these people are extremely jaded when it comes to anything normal. You can't excite them with no regular vacations.
Right. Yeah, they want to go to Jurassic Park.
Right.
Right? They want to go see dinosaurs.
Mike, I'm so far from that kind of money. I think that there might be a Jurassic Park. You just don't know about it. I just don't know about it.
Right.
Because I have come across things where I was like, oh, wow. If you got the money, I've seen things like that.
Yeah.
And let's stick even with the Jurassic Park. 2 states over, we got genetic wolves, just like Jurassic Park, going around in the forest.
That's right. We talked about that.
Dire wolves.
The dire wolves. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
So trust me, that's going to end up being some kind of thing where in order to get money to keep this thing going, they're going to get billionaires to come to that encampment and maybe spend the day with the wolves and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'm confident of that.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, it's about money, right? So, I mean, the whole reason that Rush was bringing them down to the Titanic was to generate the money to continue the operation of his company and building new crazy things that aren't going to work either. So, hey, I want to bring up one thing. I don't know where you're going next, Phil. We would be remiss if we did not mention that it sounds like that the end of the line is coming for Howard Stern. And since we're in the podcast world here, I think it's worth mentioning. And I want to ask you, do you think, because I immediately heard that, I heard nothing can happen nowadays without it somehow being blamed on politics. And I heard immediately somebody say, "Oh yeah, well that's because he went out and supported Harris and the left, and now he's falling to the wayside, similarly to the way that what's his name did on late night TV." What do you think about that?
I think that might be 10% of the reason, or something. I don't think it's the majority. I don't know if his numbers have dipped or anything like that, but if they had,
he used to get.
I'm not even talking about back in the day. I'm talking.
Yeah,
about
I know, but even since he's been on, later in Sirius XM, he was getting a couple million, I think, and now he's down to like 140,000 or something like that. So yeah, of course he's become less relevant. As, by the way, is something I brought up last week. My point to the whole thing is,
and I think he's aged out of media.
And I think it's more than just him. I think Sirius XM is aging out of the medium that people are going to watch and listen to, because I just think that is an old. I mean, it's not. He went from terrestrial radio back in the day, which for all practical purposes at this point is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sirius XM is becoming irrelevant as well, because I just think that's not a streaming service that people are. I think it's all going to streaming more. I just do. I mean, yes, of course we can stream or we'll listen to Sirius XM as well, but like, I think you're picking up your person. He's another one that I think will go to YouTube or go somewhere else and make more money than he is there anyways.
I agree with that. How do I say this? One, he's aged out. He's like
71 or something like that, right. I think.
And I'm not saying he's too old to have a large voice anymore, but he's not pulling in the demographics that ad people want.
Mm-hmm.
So he's less attractive in his position now.
Well, he was way more attractive in the beginning, I think, when he had a show. Mm-hmm. When he was a shock jock and he had a show with a bunch of cast of characters and whatnot. Now he's, which by the way, he's very good at. He's morphed into more of an interviewer,
mm-hmm.
More of a podcaster kind of based person, and he's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not what he was known for. So
I agree.
I think that's different.
So I wanted to address when you were saying about Sirius XM
mm-hmm.
days are numbered. I believe that their days are numbered too. And the main reason is because, like, if I'm interested in hearing, if I hear something, I actually have Sirius in all my vehicles.
I have Sirius here as well, right here in my truck.
But I'm home most of the time.
Yep.
So if I want to listen to something on Sirius, I go to the internet. I don't go.
Me too.
And even in my vehicle, sometimes, you know what I'll do? I have my phone already plugged up to CarPlay and everything.
Yep.
So I try to use the phone to listen to everything.
Correct.
Even if it's Sirius XM. I either go.
Same with me. I play my Sirius XM behind me on my Amazon device. So, you can put it on through the Amazon thing, and I've got it on there. I question why I'm still paying for Sirius XM, because I'm paying, I don't know, what is it, $10 a month, I think?
I think I'm paying more than that.
But it's
$17 or something.
Yeah, because it's per unit or something. But because I don't have the units, I have it through the internet now. Because I'm driving a truck that has Starlink on it, so I'm always streaming it through the internet. So I think that's what I pay. But why? Because I can turn around right now and go, Alexa, play Ozzy Osbourne, and that's coming through Amazon.
And the kids are more apt to do what you just described than us old farts.
Correct.
If it ain't on their phone, it don't exist.
Right. Right. Yeah. The days of installing. Remember, you used to be able to buy the Sirius XM I don't know what you call them, radios, I guess, right? The transponder radio, whatever. And then obviously many cars came, pre-installed or full installed anyways. But I just think that's I think that's a fading thing.
I think it's a fading thing. I think it'll go strictly to being online at a certain point, and then it'll just fade away because it won't be able to just compete with the masses.
Yep.
Unless somebody smart comes in and says, let me grab all of these top content creators and put them on Sirius XM. And then they still have to go to the internet.
So stay tuned for random waypoints on Sirius XM channel 12.
Mike, are you familiar with Shane, Devon, Tamura?
Say that one more time.
Shane, Devon, Tamura. He was the shooter in New York City a week ago.
Yes,
he went into
the one that went into was trying to go into the NFL headquarters, right?
Well, that's what I want to get into.
Yeah.
Here's the question that keeps sticking in my head. What are the chances that Shane, Devon, Tamura wasn't actually targeting the NFL headquarters like they told us? What if that story was just a convenient distraction to cover up something bigger, something more uncomfortable? Because here's what's not being talked about. Tamura's movement lined up suspiciously close to Blackstone, the investment giant that uses leveraged buyouts to swallow up businesses. They pile on debt. They pledge the acquired company's own assets as collateral and basically shut down the companies. So is it really that far-fetched to think that Tamura saw Blackstone and not the NFL as the symbol of economic violence? So what I'm basically asking...
For sure. Similarly to that other guy that got the insurance exec guy that got killed.
So I'm basically stating because he shot a person from Blackstone.
Yes.
But the news is telling us, no, he didn't mean to do that.
Well, I think the only reason I think that they're well, I could be wrong on this, and I haven't totally followed all of the news with it, but didn't he claim that he had CFE or which is obviously a big drama thing. CFE? No.
So they say that they traced his steps and they found something that he wrote. He don't have nothing like that online, nowhere, nothing. So we have to take their word for it. Okay. So let me fully develop my conspiracy. What I'm basically asking you is, I believe after the CEO murder, that there's a protocol basically in place. We're again talking about people with fuck you money and power.
Yeah.
I believe that there's a protocol in place now, especially in New York, where if a prominent person dies now, to divert that information. Because let's say they said that it was about Blackstone. You'd get that same thing like how you had the reaction toward Luigi. They don't want to keep getting these reactions over and over, because after a certain point, that grows into a community. And then in that community, you'll get more shooters.
That's right.
So,
which, by the way, is a byproduct of going way back to the beginning of our conversation, is the greatest transfer of wealth. This is what happens. This is what's happened in developing nations, where eventually there is a lot of animosity towards very wealthy people and or wealthy companies because, look, you're starving to death.
They fucked over you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So,
and by the way, Blackstone is a great example of that, because that's their MO. That's exactly what they do. Is they go in, they basically, I mean, when you get bought out by them, you know where that's going.
Mexico, or it's going your company just going to shut their. I don't think people understand how they basically borrow a shitload of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they use the business as the collateral for the money.
Correct.
So when it's time to collect the money, they don't give them money, they give them the company.
That's right. Yep.
And all those people be out of work.
And they've stripped it to its knees already. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean that's certainly. I don't know if that's the case.
That sound really far fetched.
So I don't know if that's the case in this example. I don't know, but I will tell you that I believe when you say that the authorities don't want that becoming a trend or don't want to talk about that. Absolutely, absolutely.
And here's the killer. You ain't heard no more about that shooting. That was a big shooting. And it was in the largest media city in the world.
Yep.
Things that happen in New York never just stop getting talked about this fast.
No.
So that even makes me more feel conspiratorial about what's really going on.
Yep.
So
good point.
I just wanted to get that off. So let's take this a little deeper, Mike. Here's my thinking. I have something written down I want you to hear. I've got this title, Just Following Orders.
Okay.
Because we're talking about CEOs and people, being vengeful to them, call themselves being Robin Hoods or whatever you want to call them. You've heard the phrase from people like these CEOs or people that work for CEOs that have done destructive things to people, whether it's taking their livelihoods or killing them. You hear the phrase just following orders.
Mm-hmm. And
when I first heard that line, the first time I remember ever hearing it was from those Nazi trials, the Nuremberg or something like that.
Nuremberg, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, Nuremberg trials. And that was the defense that didn't work for the soldiers. Now, that's something that CEOs often, I'm just following the board and what they're saying. This is a corporation. I have certain obligations legally that all of that stuff, which is basically saying I'm following orders.
Yep.
When it's the lowly person like the guard who's done heinous things, so I ain't defending him, but they can seem to see clearly that following orders is not a good excuse. You have a moral obligation to hear a directive or an idea or a thought and say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this.
Yep.
So why is it different with CEOs? Why are we so comfortable? Why did we defend the CEO that Luigi shot? I believe we should have defended him not getting shot.
Right.
Absolutely. But I heard people throughout and it was like, well, he's just the whatever. He's doing his job. If he don't do the job, he'll get fired and he'll get someone else and stuff like that. So what is your thought about the levity of using just following orders or anything similar to that?
Well, ironically, I mean, you would expect that the CEO is the person that's supposed to chart the course of the business. So following orders would be less likely to come from the CEO. And I understand there's board of directors and stuff, but the board of directors hires a CEO to chart a new course or make decisions, right?
And before he get voted in by that board to be a CEO, he had to be talking like he was going to do the things that they want.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay. So I didn't understand what your point was then.
I don't know what my point was. Was there supposed to be a point to that?
I think that CEOs should be treated like our lowly military people. Let's forget about Nuremberg, modern day. If I'm in the military and I'm whatever's the lowest rank, a private, and my captain tells me to kill this lady and her baby, I'm supposed to, by the way that they teach you in the Army, I'm supposed to say, no, that's a something kind of command.
Right.
I forget the.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's a wrong command. It's illegal or whatever.
Yeah, can't do that.
And if that person doesn't stand up, they will also like issue punishment to him, even though he's following the orders of his captain. So what I'm saying is, it seems like when you low on the totem pole, you have all of this moral obligation, all of this ethical obligation and everything. But the higher you go up, the less
obligation, the less moral ground you need to stand on. And by the way, that was the problem where so many people came out in defense of that Luigi guy, is because, look, the guy, the insurance, those businesses are like almost pure evil. Like, right? I mean, their goal in life is to basically screw everybody over.
It's literally a directive that you're supposed to try and keep kicking the stick down the road until the person croaks.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So
that's a fact.
Of course. I don't disagree with that.
Why do we have any kind of love for a person that's like, I'm good with that? He ain't no different than the guard from Nuremberg. He's the cause of a multitude of deaths.
And that is one of the side effects, I think, of this transfer of wealth, the rich getting richer, is that there's less accountability, right? I mean, money is power. And like I think you said earlier in the podcast, with enough money, you can get just about anything done or anything accomplished or convince anybody to do anything. And going back to my chart that I sent you, do you realize that Elon Musk, and I'm picking on him because he's like, the top of the wealthy, he has more money than the bottom 50% of Americans combined. One person.
Oh, I get it, bro. I'm with you.
Something's wrong.
I agree. And
something's wrong. Fundamentally, look, I am a huge fan of capitalism. I'm a huge fan of CEOs making a lot of good bank. And look, I am not one of those. I'm not Robin Hood. I'm not socialist by any stretch of the imagination. But I got to tell you, if one human being has more than 50% of the Americans, there's something wrong with the system.
No question. Mike, I want you to realize that we spent this whole this podcast bitching and moaning and complaining and
wait, something was different?
I think it was.
No, we did not.
We usually have like a comedic moment.
We announced and we let everybody know, if you haven't heard, that Expedition Overland's got their Greenland movie coming out on the big screen. That's a big deal in the Overland world. I'm excited about it. You should go see it. That was positive and not bitching.
I 110% agree on that. Like I said before, you don't have to be an overlander to enjoy that movie. It's got all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm. A lot of drama, a lot of reality show stuff, a lot of really tough decisions had to be made.
I watch a lot of people and their explorations and travels and whatever you want to call it. And some things I'm like, wow, that's awesome what you did, but I don't want to do it. That was one of the ones.
Yeah.
Because that looked cold.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it either. I'm with you. Yeah. No, I'm not. No. It looked cold.
They would not have enjoyed my company because I would have been in the car the whole time. I felt so sorry for that mechanic.
Not to give much away of the movie, but like the fact that they had to basically almost sleep in the car and just sit. Wow. Just watch it. Just take our word for it. Watch it.
You got anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, I think we covered the random waypoints today.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Tread lightly, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.